Hello. This is Murphy Daily with Written by Murphy by doing the Immigrant's Guide to American Literature. And today I'm going to talk about Moby Dick by Herman Melville. This book was published in 1851, and it's one of the very influential pieces of American literature. It starts with a famous line, "Call me Ishmael." Fantastic line to start a book. It's so short, direct. The book itself is neither of those things. The story is about a whaling vessel, a very American, at the time, career. It was happening. It was a job similar to construction work now, or being a trucker now. So it's told by Ishmael, and he decides to join the whaling ship, Pequod. He's done boat work before, so he wants to go and join the ship in New England and go out and have a time on the sea. A very diverse crew of people join as well, and they're off to get whales to sell the oil. It's captained by Captain Ahab, and Captain Ahab drives the story because he is obsessed with one particular whale, Moby Dick. He's obsessed with this whale because he lost his leg because of Moby Dick. Part of his leg is gone, so he has a whalebone peg leg. And he has decided that it's his purpose in life to go find that whale and kill it to get his revenge on having lost his leg. The thing is, though, the narrator, Ishmael, if he breaks into the story of Ahab and the ship and the whales by talking a lot kind of scientifically and historically and philosophically about the nature of whales, the nature of whaling, and what that means. So this story is much longer than it would be if he had just gone and straight told the story. But instead he interpolates all of this other information into this book. So it takes it a lot longer. And the interpolation is unique. It's unique in literature. I haven't seen it in any other book, but it's similar to the Transcendentalists, like Emerson, who was popular at the same exact time. And actually, this book was very influenced by Nathaniel Hawthorne, who wrote The Scarlet Letter, and had some of this same kind of talkity-talk throughout the story. Like, let's think about things and let's pull this out. So having this other kind of scientific, philosophical narrative throughout the story really adds tension and gravitas to what would otherwise be a rather short story. Let's see. The book was published, like I said, in 1851, and it was moderately popular, but it sold less than 5,000 copies. It probably was affected by the fact that a civil war broke out not too long after. And so it kind of lost popularity until the 20th century, when it was championed again. Like, look at this amazing story. And has had a lot of people have referenced it in other stories, and it has inspired people. One of the most significant inspirations and lasting cultural artifacts from Moby Dick is the name of the first mate was Starbuck. And so we have a national chain of coffee shops that are extremely popular, named after a main character in this book. This book has so much like symbolism. It's got so much symbolism. The whale and Ahab and the sea and all the symbolism of so many different people that you could never stop talking about all the different things, little pieces in the story could mean, and that fascinating, like, ooh, this is so interesting. It's really a chewy book. So I'm going to pull out a few that were meaningful to me. This is not in any way exhaustive or even hitting the big ones. If you read it, which I recommend, go and get your own impression of it. So the themes I'm going to talk about is the theme of whiteness and blackness, religion, and fate and work. Whiteness and blackness is really important in this story. And blackness is mentioned a little bit, not nearly to the same extent as whiteness. Blackness and whiteness as a straight up color is one thing, but it's also an attribute of objects and entities, like the whale is an entity, or people are entities, art. So it's not just itself, it's an attribute of people and society and concepts. So when Ishmael is first, in the beginning of the book, it's first, he's wandering around the town where he's trying to find an inn, and before he goes and looks for a ship to join, he wanders into a black church, and he's there just long enough to realize that's not where he wants to be. He's looking for an inn. But he hears that the preacher is talking to all the black people about the evils of blackness. I thought, what a strange topic. But in the story, this gothic symbolism story, right at the beginning, he's like, okay, blackness, and then he just kind of backs out. The whiteness comes up when he's talking about the whiteness of the whale that they're chasing. He talks about how whiteness is beautiful and terrible and chilling, not just in the white whale, but in lots of other places where whiteness appears. So it's very interesting to hear him talk about the nature of whiteness and what it means, really exploring all the different ways that whiteness can mean something. So this comes throughout the story, and he's talking about this. It's not purely wonderful and attractive, it's also terrifying. I find that interesting and important in that moment in history, and now as well. And the religion. There are a lot of characters in Moby Dick. They are extremely diverse. His best buddy, Queequeg, is a cannibal. I guess he's from the Hawaiian area, Polynesian area. And he has his own religion. He has an idol that he worships and treats as an object to listen to, as a deity to listen to. Ishmael himself is Presbyterian, but not, he's very open-minded. He's like, okay, everybody has their own thing. He gets along with Queequeg great. He loves Queequeg. He, when he's looking to join the whaling vessel, the Pequod, the people that own the Pequod are Quakers. And he's like, oh yeah, Quakers are like this. And they have a particular way of talking, a particular way of being, and he knows this is part of whaling culture, is this particular kind of religious person. Also, very significantly, and you could really just swim around in all the meaning of this chapter, this section, is before he goes on the voyage, it's traditional for the whaling people to go to this one church, the whaling church, Father Maple. And this church itself looks like a ship. And it is a holy place, a church, that is replicating a ship. So when that sets the stage at the beginning of the book, so when they go to their ship, it's a workplace, it's a work site, but it is a holy place. So all of the religions go to, all the people of all the different religions go to this one particular whaling church, and they are all welcome there. Very interesting. You could swim around in all kinds of meaning there. And now we come to my favorite, huge, overarching theme. The theme of fate and work. I'm going to go back for a minute, all the way back to the Iliad. Homer and Achilles in the Trojan War is fighting this exact same problem, this incredibly human problem. His fate. What is his fate? He is tied to die, and he is angry about it because he wishes he were immortal. I think a lot of people would like it if we didn't have to die. Now, this is huge human story, and Melville, that glorious American author, takes it on in a very ordinary way. These people are not heroes on this ship. They are nowadays you call them blue collar. They're regular working guys, and they're all together on this ship. Ahab is the captain, but he's not special in any way particularly. He just is the captain. It's American. They're all equal. But he's decided that he is fighting his fate. Just like Achilles, he's fighting his fate. His fate was to have his leg, lose part of his leg. That's not that unusual. And in fact, on the story, they find another vessel, a British whaling ship, and there's the captain on that ship has lost part of his arm to Moby Dick. But he's over. He's like, oh well. You know, he wishes it hadn't happened, but that was his fate, and he's resigned to his fate, and he's going about his business. Ahab is not going about his business. Ahab is going to fight his fate. His fate has taken on a form. His fate is that whale. So everything that we learn about the whale is applicable to fate. Ahab's fate. He said it here. This is an amazing quote. Through that gate, which is chasing Moby Dick, through that gate lay the route to his vengeance. And through that same gate, he was now both chasing and being chased to his deadly end. He was chasing and being chased. What? It is his fate to fight his fate, and it is his fate to die in the fighting of his fate. Whoa! Oh my gosh. That is really dense and full of meaning, all right? So he's fighting his fate, and he's manifesting his fate. All right. So that's what they're all doing. Now, they are arguing about the whale. The people are like, hey, this is just a job. Come on. We're doing this. The Starbuck is like, it's just a job. Come on, we're trying to make money. And Ahab's like, no, I'm obsessed. We're going to do this. And, Moby Dick's like, no, I'm that is their fate, to be with this boss, this captain, who is not thinking as much about what they're for as he is thinking about his fate and what he wants with that whale. All right. Everything that, like I was saying, everything that Melville brings up about the whale is talking about what you can do about your fate. So he is very practically, in a very workmanlike American way, defining the borders of fate. By defining all the pieces of and the anatomy and the history of whales, he's also saying we can know the anatomy and the history and the levers and the edges of our fate. That's what he's talking about when he's talking about the whale. He's kind of taking the power away. It's not outside of our realm of influence. Very interesting. But now I want to talk about the other thing that means a lot to me. This is a work site. This ship, this vessel. He describes, okay, we cut the whale head when they capture whale. We cut the whale head off and we boil it down and it feels like this, and the squishy whale fat is like, that's like really visceral, literally visceral, right? They're talking about eating it. Eating your fate, living off your fate. This is your fate. This is their work site, and they're working there, eating and washing the decks and hoisting sail, directing this ship to where they need to go. So that fate that they're chasing, to Ahab it's his fate, to Starbuck and Ishmael and Queequeg, it's their livelihood. And how different is our fate and our livelihood? They're very intertwined. They're just, it's super ordinary, and it's like, it's your bread and your water and your food and your fate. And I like that these are American people doing what Americans do, doing what it feels like everybody does. We're making a living. And these people on the boat were making a living and chasing their fate. It is both things at once. They are chasing and being chased to their deadly end by going after their work. And I love that about Moby Dick. I could go on about a lot of different things. This book is a glorious piece of American literature. It is inspiring to many other works of art. And I also want to point out, it starts out using the same intro as another book that preceded it, 2 Years Before the Mast. 2 Years Before the Mast is another great book. It's totally nonfiction, and it's a good book. It's a good American story about a guy who goes on a trip. He goes to be a sailor, and so it starts out like, and I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is I've heard this song before. I've heard the start of a book before, and so he's totally ripping off the start of 2 Years Before the Mast, which is published prior to his book and was popular. But then he takes it in a whole other direction. And this is how literature works. He is inspired by and then inspires others to come by what he's done. As a work of literature, it's influenced the world. And that is it's captured what America is like and shared it with the world. It's hard to stop talking about it But this is enough. And it really is a capture of American culture from that time, and also as it's carried forward. That's what we've got. That's what I've got to share. So that's the story of Moby Dick.